My name is Ethan Miller, and until the night everything fell apart, I believed my family was just struggling. Nothing special, nothing dangerous, nothing worth noticing. I was 17, sitting at the dining table in our small Indiana home, finishing a school essay under a flickering bulb. Mom, Sarah Miller, paced around the kitchen, pretending to make tea she clearly didn't want. She kept glancing at the clock, then the door, then the clock again. "Mom," I said softly, "Dad's late." She froze. Her fingers tightened around the mug. "He's not coming home tonight," she whispered. My father, Mark Miller, wasn't perfect. He drank. He disappeared for days. He lied. But he always came back, eventually, until this night. A loud knock suddenly shook the house. Not a polite knock. A knock from someone who wasn't asking to be let in. Mom's face turned pale. "Ethan, go to your room." Before I could move, the knock came again. Harder. Angrier. Mom grabbed my arm to push me away, but the door swung open on its own. 3 men walked in. The one in front made my stomach drop. James Miller, my father's older brother, wealthy, powerful, the kind of man who made people lower their eyes when he walked into a room. But he had never visited us, not once in my entire life. Behind him stood 2 huge men, clearly bodyguards. Mom stepped forward, voice cracking. "James, please, not here." He ignored her, locking eyes with me instead. "So," he said coldly, "you've grown." His tone felt like a threat. "Where's Dad?" I asked. A thin, cruel smirk appeared on his lips. "He won't be back." Mom's breath hitched. Tears instantly filled her eyes. James looked at the bodyguards. "Grab him." Before I understood, one man grabbed my shoulder, another grabbed my other arm. Mom screamed and tried to pull me back, but one guard shoved her so hard she hit the wall and collapsed. "Mom!" I yelled. James didn't even glance at her. He stepped closer until I could smell his expensive cologne. "You're coming with me," he said. "Why? What did I do?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Your father betrayed the family, stole something worth more than your life." My blood turned cold. "And now," James continued, "you're going to pay for what he did." The guards lifted me, dragging me toward the door as rain hammered outside. I fought, I screamed, I begged, but their grip was iron. As lightning flashed, James spoke the sentence that has haunted me ever since. "Your father's secrets will destroy you, Ethan, unless you discover them first." The door slammed shut behind us. Thunder roared, and my childhood ended right there on that stormy night. Rain hit my face as the bodyguards dragged me toward a black SUV parked across the street. The neighborhood was asleep, but even if someone had been awake, nobody would have interfered with James Miller. He was the kind of man people avoided, even in daylight. They shoved me into the back seat. James slid in beside me, shutting the door gently, almost politely, which somehow made it worse. The engine started. For the first few minutes, no one spoke. Only the sound of wipers slicing through rain filled the silence. I finally forced out, "Where are you taking me?" James didn't look at me. "To the place your father ran from." I frowned. "My dad never talked about his family, ever." James let out a dry laugh. "Of course he didn't. Mark always wanted to pretend he wasn't a Miller. He tried hiding you from us, until he crossed a line he shouldn't have." I swallowed hard. "What line?" James turned his head slowly, eyes cold as steel. "The line between loyalty and betrayal." Before I could react, the SUV pulled up to a massive iron gate. A guard tower overlooked the entrance. Floodlights cut through the rain. This was not a house. This was a compound. The gate slid open. My stomach tightened as we drove in. Manicured lawns, tall statues, expensive cars, and a mansion that looked straight out of a billionaire magazine. A place I had never been allowed near. A place Dad had pretended didn't exist. The SUV stopped in front of the entrance. The guards pulled me out again, but this time not as violently. James followed, straightening his coat. "Walk." Inside the mansion felt colder than the storm outside. Marble floors, silent hallways, giant portraits, and every portrait had members of the Miller family. But my father wasn't in a single one. Not as a child, not as an adult, not anywhere. It was like he didn't exist. James noticed me staring. "He removed himself from this family long before you were born." "Why?" I asked. James didn't answer. Instead, he led me down a long hallway to a room at the end. He opened the door and stepped aside. It was a study. Dark wood shelves, a fireplace, leather chairs, and a woman I had never seen before sat inside. Her posture screamed power. Her age? Maybe late 50s? Her eyes? Sharp, observant, and far too familiar. She looked like Dad, which meant James cleared his throat. "Mother, this is him." The woman slowly stood up, never never breaking eye contact with me. Ethan, you look just like Mark did at your age. I froze. This was my grandmother, but Dad had told me she was dead. Where is he? I blurted out. Where's my father? She walked towards me. Her expression softened just a little. Ethan, your father didn't run away. She placed a trembling hand on my cheek. He was taken. My breath caught. Taken? By who? James clenched his jaw. It doesn't matter now. What matters is what he stole before he disappeared. A chill ran through me. What are you talking about? I whispered. James leaned in closer. Your father stole something worth millions. Something the entire family wants back. Millions? I repeated. James nodded. And we believe you know where he hid it. I stared at him, stunned. How could I know? I'm 17. He never... James cut me off. You're lying. I'm not. He grabbed my shirt and pulled me closer. Your father left clues with you, whether you know it or not. My heart pounded. Clues? What clues? I had nothing. Absolutely nothing. The grandmother, Margaret Miller, put her hand on James's arm. Enough, she said. James let go but didn't look away. Margaret stepped towards me. Ethan, listen to me carefully. Her voice lowered to almost a whisper. Your father didn't just steal money. He stole a secret. She paused. A secret this family would kill to keep hidden. My blood ran cold. And then she said the sentence that changed everything. Your life depends on finding out what he left behind before the others do. I stood there in the center of the study, soaked from rain, my heart still hammered from the chaos. James glared at me like I was some criminal, and Margaret, my grandmother who wasn't supposed to be alive, studied me like a puzzle she'd spent years trying to solve. The air felt tight, heavy, dangerous. I finally managed to speak. What secret? What did my dad steal? Margaret didn't answer right away. Instead, she slowly walked behind her desk, opening a drawer. James stepped closer, as if expecting something to explode. That detail alone told me whatever this secret was, it wasn't simple money or property. She pulled out a small velvet box. My chest tightened. She held it out. For 10 years, we believed your father took the original, but he didn't. He made a copy. Her eyes narrowed. And we think he gave the real one to you. I blinked. What gave me what? I don't have anything. James scoffed. He's lying. I'm not, I snapped. Margaret opened the velvet box. Inside was a small, old-fashioned brass key. Not a house key, not a car key. Something older, heavier, with a carved symbol on the top that looked like an M intertwined with a serpent. I had never seen it before. This, Margaret said softly, is the key to the family vault, James added. The vault which contains documents that would destroy every one of us if they ever went public. My heart thudded. Dad had something like this, and he gave it to me? Margaret closed the box. Your father didn't trust us. He believed someone in this family wanted him dead, and he was right, James muttered under his breath. Margaret shot him a warning look, but it was too late. The words were out. They hung there like a loaded gun. I stepped back. You're saying someone from this family, someone here, killed my dad? Margaret's voice cracked for the first time. Yes, a cold numbness spread through my chest. James folded his arms. Your father stole the original vault key and disappeared. We searched for him everywhere, until someone found him before we did. So you want revenge? I asked bitterly. James smirked. No, we want the truth. Margaret shook her head. We want to keep the truth buried. Her tone chilled me to my bones. Before I could react, the study door opened. Another man walked in. Tall, sharp suit, cold expression. Someone who didn't smile and probably hadn't in years. James straightened. Ethan, this is William Miller, your cousin. Great. Another stranger who hated me for existing. Victor stared at me like he was analyzing a threat. Then he spoke. Where's the key your father gave you? I threw up my hands. For the last time, I don't have anything. Victor stepped closer. Your father mailed you things. Notes, letters, packages. What did he leave behind? Where are they? I didn't get any letters. He left us years ago. He never contacted us. Silence. Deep, heavy silence. Victor's eyes narrowed. Margaret whispered, Sarah, she must have hidden it. My heart twisted. Mom? Victor turned to me, voice low and dangerous. Your mother knows where it is. I shook my head. She doesn't. She would have. James interrupted sharply. She lied to you for years. She lied to all of us. She protected you, Margaret added softly. She protected whatever Mark left behind. Victor stepped even closer, face inches from mine. So here's what's going to happen, Ethan. He lowered his voice. You're going back home tomorrow, and you're going to search every inch of that house until you find the real key. My stomach turned. And if I don't? Victor smiled for the first time. It wasn't a nice smile. If you don't, your mother will pay for it. A chill raced down my spine. James spoke again.
Ethan, voice like ice. You want to save her? Then find the truth your father left behind. Margaret added, whatever Mark protected is now your responsibility. Thunder cracked outside. The rain grew heavier, and I suddenly realized I wasn't here as a family member. I was here as leverage, a bargaining chip. And somewhere out there, my father had hidden a secret powerful enough to get him killed. And now they wanted me to finish what he started.
They kept me overnight in one of the guest rooms of the mansion. Guest room was a polite lie. It was a beautifully decorated prison cell. No locks on the doors, but 2 guards stood outside. No windows big enough to escape from. No phone. No chance to warn my mom. I barely slept. My head kept replaying one thing. They think Mom is hiding something. Something Dad left behind. Something worth killing for. By morning, Victor entered my room without knocking. Get dressed, he said. We're going to your house. I wanted to punch him. I wanted to scream. But all I could think was, Mom is alone. Mom is in danger. We drove back in silence. The closer we got to my neighborhood, the tighter my chest felt. As the SUV pulled up, I saw our small, worn-out house, the place where everything had fallen apart last night. I ran inside. Mom! Mom! She rushed from the kitchen. Tears streaked across her face. Ethan! Thank God! She hugged me like she thought she'd never see me again. Victor cleared his throat. We're here for answers, Sarah. Her body stiffened immediately. She let go of me slowly. I don't know anything, she whispered. Victor smirked. That's what Mark said before he ran. Mom's eyes filled with rage. Don't talk about him like. James walked in behind Victor. We don't have time for lies. Your son's life depends on this. My breathing hitched. Mom, I said quietly, is there something Dad left behind? Anything? A letter? A box? A note? Anything? She didn't move. She didn't blink. She stood frozen, like her mind had suddenly shut down. Victor stepped closer. You know where it is. Mom didn't respond. James snapped. Sarah, enough. Stop! I shouted, stepping between them. My mother's lips trembled. Then, very slowly, she spoke. Ethan, go to your room. My heart dropped. Last night, she told me the same sentence, right before everything exploded. I ran to my room. I searched the shelves, desk drawers, under the bed, behind posters, nothing. Then, I remembered something strange, something Dad had done years ago. When I was 10, Dad helped me build a wooden bookshelf, but instead of buying one, he insisted we build it from scratch. He spent hours carving, sanding, shaping it, far more care than a simple bookshelf deserved. Back then, it felt weird. Now, it felt suspicious. I pulled the bookshelf away from the wall. It was heavy as hell because the back panel was thicker than it should have been. Dad had built a hidden compartment. My hands shook as I pried off the wooden panel. Inside was a sealed envelope, yellowed, old. My name written on the front in Dad's handwriting. My throat tightened. I opened it. Inside was a letter and a small metal object wrapped in cloth. I unfolded the letter first. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I didn't make it back. You're in danger. Your mother too. The family thinks I stole something from them, but they're wrong. I didn't steal it. I found it. My pulse quickened. They've lied for generations. They've destroyed anyone who knew the truth, and what I discovered could end them. You must protect it. I unwrapped the cloth. It wasn't a key. It wasn't jewelry. It wasn't money. It was a USB drive. Old, scratched, but heavy. Too heavy for a normal USB. My father's letter continued. Everything is inside this drive. Names, dates, documents. Proof of what the Millers have done for 40 years. But they can never know you have it. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. If they get this drive, you die. If you try to confront them, you die. If you trust the wrong person, your mother dies. My breath shook. Run, Ethan. Not from them, but from the truth they want to bury. Find the one person I trust. He will explain everything. His name is... The rest of the sentence was torn off. Not accidentally. Clean, straight, precise. Someone had removed the name. Footsteps pounded behind me. Victor ripped the envelope from my hand. What did he leave you? I closed my fist around the USB before he could see it. Nothing, I lied, breathing hard. Just a stupid letter. James grabbed my collar. He didn't risk his life for nothing. I shoved him away, glaring. You want to know what he left? He left me a mess. They stared. I shoved the torn letter at them. Victor read it once, and his eyes widened. James snatched the page. No name? Why is the last line missing? Because I had the truth hidden in my hand. Margaret appeared in the doorway, her face pale. Bring him back to the mansion, now. Victor reached for me, but my mom stepped forward. Touch my son, and I'll bury you myself. Victor smirked. Not if we bury you first. first, Mom froze. I felt my heart break. They weren't bluffing, and Dad's letter was right. My mother's life depended on me. Victor grabbed my arm. I had one choice: hide the truth, play along, survive long enough to understand what my father died to protect. As they dragged me out of the room, the USB burned in my hand, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The Millers didn't want revenge. They wanted to erase every trace of the truth, including me. I didn't expect the truth to hit me in fragments, like glass from a window shattered by its own reflection. It began the next morning when I returned to Evelyn's house. She hadn't answered any of my late-night calls, which wasn't like her. She always picked up, even when she was mad at me. When I walked inside, the first thing I noticed was the smell. Roses. Too many roses. Evelyn always kept fresh flowers, but this was different. Vases overflowing, petals scattered like someone had tried to hide something under beauty. "Evelyn?" I called. Instead of her voice, I heard footsteps coming from the kitchen, not hers. These steps were heavier, slow, calculated. Then Daniel walked out. My heart hammered so hard I could feel it in my teeth. He was wearing gloves. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, and his eyes had the same dead calm I saw the night Ivy died. "You shouldn't have come back so soon," he said, almost disappointed. I stepped back. "Where's Evelyn?" He smirked. "Safe, for now. I just needed to make sure you understood boundaries." "Boundaries?" My voice cracked. "You broke into her house. What did you do to her?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out something shiny, familiar. Evelyn's necklace. The one Ivy had gifted her years ago. The one she never took off. My breath caught. "Where is she?" I repeated. Daniel tilting his head like he was studying a weak point in armor. "You really don't see it, do you? You think you're the righteous one, the victim, the truth chaser, the moral hero." His lips curled. "But you have no idea what you stepped into." My phone buzzed in my pocket. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Don't," he warned. I ignored him. I stepped back further and pulled the phone out before he could grab me. The message was from an unknown number. "If you want Evelyn alive, stop digging." My stomach twisted. Before I could respond, Daniel lunged. But I was ready this time. After everything that happened yesterday, I'd slept with a knife under my pillow and brought it with me. Not because I wanted a fight, but because I was terrified one was coming. He grabbed my arm. I twisted, shoved him back, and sliced across his forearm. Not deep, but enough to make him recoil. Daniel's expression changed. Not pain, not fear. Something worse. Recognition. Like he'd been waiting for me to fight back, to prove I was worthy of whatever twisted game he was playing. "You think you're saving her," he said, breathing hard, "but you're doing exactly what they want, just like your father did." Those words froze me. "You don't get to talk about my father," I snapped. Daniel laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "Oh, I will. Someone needs to prepare you for the truth. He was not the man you think he was." "What do you know about my father?" He touched the scratch on his arm and smirked at the blood on his fingers. "Enough, but I'm not the one you should fear." "Then who?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice, like someone confessing a sin. "Richard Holloway." The room tilted. The name hit me like a blow. Richard Holloway, my father's former business partner, the man who vanished after Ivy's death, the man whose involvement my mother never wanted to discuss, the man I thought was dead. I didn't even have time to react before Daniel shoved past me and walked toward the door, leaving drops of blood on the hardwood floor. "Don't follow me," he warned. "Not unless you're ready to destroy everything you've ever believed about your family." He opened the door, paused, and looked back one last time. "And Adel," he smiled coldly, "you're already too late." Then he left. I stood in the middle of the house, surrounded by a suffocating number of roses, each one suddenly looking less like decoration and more like a warning. I didn't know where Evelyn was. I didn't know who sent the message. I didn't know why Holloway's name was resurfacing after all these years. But one thing was certain. This wasn't just a revenge story anymore. This was a family war, written long before I was born, and now being forced on me, whether I was ready or not. And if Evelyn had been taken because of what I discovered, I would burn down the whole truth to get her back. When I left Evelyn's house, the sun was already setting, turning the world into a bruised palette of purple and rust. must. I drove without thinking, my hands trembling on the steering wheel, Daniel's words echoing like a curse. Richard Holloway, you're already too late. I didn't know where I was going until my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number, same cold silence behind it. If you love her, come alone. Below it was an address. My stomach dropped. It was the address of an old storage facility on the outskirts of town, one my father used to rent years before he died. This wasn't random. This was personal. I parked outside the facility, the lot nearly empty, lights flickering like they were afraid to stay alive. A stray dog barked in the distance. The cold November wind bit into me as I stepped out. Every instinct screamed, trap, but Evelyn's face, terrified, alone somewhere, dragged me forward. Inside, the storage units lined up like metal coffins. The number I was sent, Unit 47B, was half open, a slit of warm light stretching across the concrete. I approached slowly. My heartbeat was loud enough to drown out the world. When I pushed the door open, I didn't see Evelyn. I didn't see a captor. I saw photos, hundreds of photos, pinned on the walls with surgical precision. My father, my mother, Ivy, Evelyn, and me. From my childhood to now, every school, every job, every friend, a timeline of my life laid out like a crime scene. My throat tightened. Someone had been watching me for years. I stepped closer and then I saw something even worse. A folder on a small desk with my father's name on it. My fingers shook as I opened it. Inside were documents, bank statements, letters, property transfers, court notices, all connected to Holloway. And one thing became immediately clear. My father hadn't cut ties with him voluntarily. He'd been blackmailed, threatened, owned. My stomach churned. Then a voice behind me cut through the air like a blade. I figured you'd find your way here eventually. A deal. I spun around. A tall, thin man stood at the entrance, wearing a charcoal coat and black gloves. His hair was gray, combed back neatly, but his eyes were hollow, predatory. Richard Holloway. He wasn't dead. He wasn't missing. He was alive and watching me. I've been waiting for this moment, he said, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. You look just like your father when he realized he'd lost control. I clenched my jaw. Where is Evelyn? He smiled faintly. That girl means a great deal to someone I owe a favor to. My pulse spiked. Daniel? So he finally stepped into the light. How messy of him. Where is she? I demanded. He ignored the question and walked towards the wall of photos, running a gloved finger across one of my father. Your father tried to expose me once. He thought he was smarter than the truth, smarter than the men he worked with. He wasn't. You ruined him, I snapped. Holloway's eyebrow arched slightly. No, Adil. He ruined himself the moment he believed he could outrun the consequences of the deal he made. What deal? I cracked. He turned towards me. The kind of deal that made him rich and made me necessary. My chest tightened. You blackmailed him. I protected him, Holloway corrected. But protection always comes with a price. I felt heat rise in my face. All this time, you watched us? My mother? Ivy? Evelyn? I watched everyone your father cared about. Leverage is built on attachment. Ivy simply got in the way. My stomach twisted violently. You killed her. Holloway smiled like the idea amused him. Killing is crude. Besides, Daniel was always more impulsive than I preferred. I warned him about Ivy. The room tilted. Daniel did it? Holloway shrugged lightly. He made a mistake, a sentimental one. He loved her. That was fatal. My chest tightened. If Daniel killed Ivy, then his obsession with Evelyn wasn't random. It was repeating the same twisted cycle. I stepped forward. Where is she? Holloway looked almost bored. She's safe for now, but if you want her back, you'll do something for me. I felt my fingers dig into my palms. What do you want? He smiled coldly. For you to finish what your father started and pay the debt he left unpaid. Then he tossed something towards me. A small recorder. I caught it. Play it when you're alone, he said. It contains your father's final confession. The truth he was too cowardly to tell you. My heart stopped. My father left no confession. Holloway shrugged lightly. He left one with me. I stepped forward. You're lying. But suddenly, a noise echoed from outside. Tires screeching, doors slamming, footsteps running. Holloway's expression shifted for the first time. Annoyance seemed
seems Daniel couldn't wait his turn. My blood froze. Daniel's here? Before Holloway could answer, the storage unit door was kicked open so hard it slammed against the wall. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, eyes wild, shirt stained from the cut I gave him. Step away from him, Holloway, Daniel growled. Holloway sighed. You're becoming a problem. Daniel pointed a gun at him. You promised she'd be safe. My pulse exploded. Where is Evelyn? I demanded again. Both men ignored me. Daniel stepped closer. You broke our agreement. And you, Holloway said calmly, forgot your place. Daniel's finger twitched on the trigger. Don't, I warned. Daniel, but it was too late. A single shotgun shattered the air.
For a moment there was silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Gunpowder burned the air. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs, and the world stopped moving long enough for me to feel the terror crawling up my spine. Then the body hit the floor. Daniel. He collapsed to his knees first, the gun slipping from his hand, clattering uselessly on the concrete before he fell face first beside it. A crimson bloom spread across his shoulder. Holloway had shot him, not to kill, but to punish, to remind him who held power. Daniel groaned, clutching the wound. You bastard. Holloway didn't even flinch. He calmly reloaded the gun like this was routine for him, like shooting people who disobeyed was part of his daily schedule. I rushed forward. Daniel, where is Evelyn? He looked at me, eyes unfocused, breathing sharp and shallow. I didn't hurt her. Where is she? I shouted. He winced, blood seeping through his fingers. Holloway, he lied. He said he'd keep her safe if I helped him watch you. He said, Holloway's cold voice cut in. Daniel is forgetting that his emotional instability makes him a terribly unreliable narrator. I snapped. Tell me where she is, Holloway. A faint smirk touched his lips. She's close. Close enough that she'll hear the end, whatever that may be. My stomach twisted. He was playing with me, dangling Evelyn like bait over a fire. Before I could grab him, Holloway raised the gun toward me. Stay where you are, Adil. Daniel stirred on the floor. Don't hurt him. Holloway exhaled sharply as if annoyed by a child interrupting a conversation. You still don't understand, do you? He said to me. This story was never about you. What the hell are you talking about? I snapped. Holloway stepped closer, lowering his voice. It was always about your father. You are simply the residue of his mistakes. His words cut deeper than any knife. And what about Ivy? What mistake was she? Holloway paused, and for the first time a flicker, just a flicker of something like regret appeared in his expression. I warned her to stay away. I told her more than once. Told her what? That Daniel's affection isn't harmless. He loved her beyond reason. And when she tried to leave, you pushed her. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. You threatened her. You made her hide things from us. Holloway didn't deny it. He simply looked at Daniel, who was struggling to stay conscious. Her death was unfortunate, but not unpreventable. Daniel's voice cracked. I loved her, and you destroyed her, Holloway said flatly. That's what love does when it's built on obsession rather than choice. I felt bile rise in my throat. You both ruined her life. Holloway raised the gun again. And now your father's debts fall on you. At that moment, something shifted in me. Something broke. I stepped closer to Daniel's fallen gun. Slowly, silently. My foot slid toward it inch by inch. Holloway's eyes flicked toward my movement. You think you can do what your father couldn't? I didn't respond. My hand reached the gun. Then a scream. A real, terrified, desperate scream from somewhere outside the unit. Adil! Evelyn. Pure instinct took over. I grabbed the gun, rolled behind a metal cabinet as Holloway fired. The bullet ripped past where my head had been a split second earlier. Evelyn! I yelled back. Where are you? Outside! He locked me. Adil, please! Her voice was shaking, panicked. I pushed the cabinet hard, making it slam to the floor to distract Holloway. He fired again, missing by inches. Then I darted out, aiming for the doorway. Holloway aimed at me again, but Daniel, bleeding, half-conscious, grabbed his ankle with the last bit of strength he had left. Not him, Daniel gasped. Holloway stumbled. His shot went wide. I didn't hesitate. I kicked his wrist as hard as I could, hard enough to send the gun flying across the concrete. It skidded into the shadows. Holloway snarled, something animalistic finally slipping through his polished facade. You ungrateful... I punched him. For Ivy, for my father, for Evelyn. He stumbled back, hitting the desk, knocking over the photos. For the first time, Holloway looked afraid. Not of me, but of losing control. He lunged
lunged. We slammed into the wall, struggling, fists colliding with bone, breath tearing out of our lungs. Finally, I managed to get him in a chokehold, slamming him to the ground. He went still. Not dead, but defeated. I didn't care. I ran outside. Evelyn was tied to a chair beside one of the storage units, wrists red, tears on her cheeks. When she saw me, she sobbed. "A deal." I loosened the ropes with shaking hands, my chest tight, breath broken. "I've got you. It's over. I'm here." She collapsed into me, trembling. "I thought I'd never see you again." I held her, burying my face in her hair. "You will always see me again." The sirens approached in the distance, bright flashing red reflecting across the metal walls. Daniel had passed out inside. Holloway lay unconscious in the dust. The nightmare was ending. The truth was out, and the shadows that had followed my family for years finally had light thrown on them. As the police pulled up, Evelyn whispered, "What now?" I exhaled shakily, still holding her. "Now," I said softly. "Now, we start over. Free from their secrets, free from their sins, free from everything our families tried to bury." She closed her eyes and leaned into me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe.